Hello, I am Paula Bennett and welcome to my New Zealand Herald podcast, Ask Me Anything. Now, one thing I've learnt in life is it's never too late to learn something new. So on this podcast, I talk to people from all walks of life to hear about how they got to where they are, get some advice and guidance on some of life's biggest questions. And boy, we've got one today, because on this episode, we are going to chat a bit about ageing. We all have to face it, and actually it's a pleasure to be able to face it, but how can we approach it in a healthy and happy way? A new book from one of our most recognised faces has shed some light on the subject. She's a writer, former broadcaster. In fact, she was the face at the 6pm news for 26 years. Judy Bailey, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much.
Oh, it's lovely to have you here. Now, I've only got two little rules.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
One is that I'm allowed to ask you anything, because that's the name of the...
absolutely fine.
But I always say to people, you don't have to answer.
But I also heard that I was allowed to ask you something.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's later.
Oh, goody. I like to ask the questions.
Yeah, I bet you do. In fact, we're going to talk about that. And we also do this as a safe zone. So we do the no judgy, you know, like...
I love the sound
safe.
Of that.
Yeah.
That's great.
It puts everyone at ease. Now, normally my quick fire, we do the, you know, who would you have to a dinner party and what would you cook? But in the book yourself, which we're going to get to in the second half and talk about ageing, but you talk about family occasions and friends and the pleasure of eating good food with them and that. So what do you cook if you're doing that?
There's sort of bonding times, I think, you know, around food. And food's very important in our family. I'm not a brilliant cook by any means, but I just like to do simple, yummy stuff, you know, mostly Italian type things, pasta-based things with loads of anchovies and capers.
Yeah.
And all age tomatoes.
And all age groups will eat it as well, won't they, when you've got that sort of food?
Yes, our
nice.
5-year-old grandson is very into my pasta, and as is my husband, and so it's multi-generational.
My daughter and my mother and I, we talk about probably our fondest memories and still some of our best times are when we are cooking for a big group coming, you know, a family, and they'll always come early and they'll sit around and, you know, and do the chopping and do the everything while I'm usually the one that's cooking and pulling it all together, and we've all got a job, and it's when we gossip and when we catch up and that conversation, and
It's so important that time. We've just had Easter with the whole family, so 14 of us there, and it was just magical, really. And we have so much fun together. You know, we play dopey games and we have the Bailey Olympics.
I like that.
Which is...
and even like
good fun.
My nephew, he's in his mid-20s and he brought along the new girlfriend, you know, and that's hard, right? You're going into a family occasion and we'd probably be a bit the same as you know, there's sort of like 14 or 15 of us. And so, of course, I just look at her and go, hey, can you give me a hand and come and chop this?
Yes.
And all of a sudden she's doing something.
It's an icebreaker, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes. Draw people in. And that's the most important thing about aging as well.
Yeah.
You know, to have those relationships, they're incredibly supportive. They're scaffolding, really, for you. At the very beginning of your life, the primary architect of the brain is relationship, that first relationship you have with your mother, and then at the end of your life, or not the end, but as you get older, relationships are profoundly protective.
Yeah. And we are leaping a bit, but I think we're there right now, so we will just, you know, but I was thinking as I read the book as well, is it's not just how we value those who are aging, but how we actually, you know, use their wisdom and their, you know, and I make a really fit with my mum. Like someone will say to me, can you do it? And I'll go, well, mum's better at that than me. Ask her.
Oh, go you.
You
That's
know,
excellent.
And you know, and I was thinking, I've been doing that, and I thought I must keep doing it and do more of it.
Yes.
Because actually you've got value in this household.
You certainly do. And I think when you turn 65, which has kind of been the traditional retirement age, and I really don't like that word retirement. It's an awful passive word. I think people kind of have an impression of older age as being a time of vulnerability and maybe frailty, and you might be a bit doddery. And it's just not true. You know, people have at least 3 good decades ahead of them. There's life to be lived. Yeah. And if we're lucky, if we're lucky to have reached that age, because so many people don't, then, there's a lot of life left to live. Yeah. And I think that sometimes society's view of older people impacts on older people. It's if you're told often enough that you're a candidate for the retirement village or the incontinence pad or whatever, you see on television, then you kind of come to believe it, that you might be a little bit past it, and it's not true.
No.
It's not true. No. We're still the same people that we always were. We still have the same, hopes and dreams and fears and... Yeah. And
personalities and actually it's enriched more because of the experience and the people and things that you've gathered through those times. Yeah. So shall we talk let's take a step back and talk a bit about you. So, I mean, it's been, how many years has it been since you left the 6 p.m. news? About 20?
About 20, thereabouts, yes.
Gosh, does it fly?
So. It's just flown past. They've just been chock-a-block years.
I was thinking, though, that you pretty much left in 2005, which is when I became an MP. So that made me feel comfortable because I was thinking, well, you will never have been sitting there reporting on some terrible behaviour of mine. You wouldn't have had to have read that out.
But I have interviewed you before, Paula, and I enjoyed it very much.
But last time we met was in your home when you interviewed me.
Yes, that's right.
Weekly, which was a lot of fun. Yeah. So you've done a lot in that 20 years, and so you've written the first book, and now you've written the second. So and you write beautifully. Do you like writing?
Oh, I do. I love writing, and thank you for saying that. But I just write as I speak, I think. As a broadcaster, you probably slip into that more easily. But writing was always my first love. I wanted desperately to write for Thursday magazine, which you wouldn't remember, you're way too young. But it was a magazine for the thinking woman.
Oh, really? I like
back in the day, run by a wonderful journalist called Marcia Russell, and I really wanted to work for her. But I ended up going straight into broadcasting out of journalism school. Yeah. So I was.
A good friend of mine who's a very established and competent journalist, she said to me, there's 3 different types of writers. There's people that write worse than they speak. There's people that speak as they write, and then there's people that write better than they speak.
Yes.
Yeah. And you'd fit in there. That middle, which is...
Yeah, I think I do, probably. And I've enjoyed writing so much. I've discovered so much along the way. I've been down all sorts of rabbit holes, as you do. And,
And so, I mean, you've talked about family and that being, such an important part of your life.
Pivotal.
But equally, there's the charity work that you do, and I know the Brainwave Trust a lot, as you can, particularly when I was Child, Youth and Family, they were one of the first organisations I met actually that really helped me understand that little human's brain. Yes. And I could sit there, and I'd be quite annoying because I'd go, boy, those neurons are clicking off down there.
Yes, it was just such a revelation to see inside the brain for the very first time in the 90s, when we were able to see the living brain actually working. And I just became consumed with the science of it all after hearing a Texan neuroscientist, actually, Dr. Bruce Perry, present at one of our congresses on child abuse and neglect, and big international congress that was held here. And Brainwave came out of that because we were entranced by his work. It seemed to be so fundamental to everything that we do, and it should underpin all social policy, I believe.
Yeah, I agree.
The science of the brain, because it's profound.
Well, when Simon Bridges, when his wife was pregnant, they were having their first, and he said to me, you've been around a bit, and I suppose, and because this is called Ask Me Anything, he said to me, so what's your, everyone seems to think they've got advice. I'm actually going to ask for yours. And I said to him, you cannot overlove or care for an under 1-year-old.
Brilliant.
You can't
advice.
hold them too much. You can't look into their eyes too much. That little brain is developing at such a rapid speed.
Yes.
That your care and protection and love is going to help all those little neurons connect.
Every time you hold a child and gaze into its eyes, hundreds of thousands of neurons are firing up and creating pathways in the brain that allow them to empathize, to understand consequence, to become a capable, contributing adult down the track. Yeah. It's so important. And yet I feel like we've taken our eye off the ball with parenting and relationships. They're paramount.
Yeah,
they're absolutely paramount. I'm going to interview very shortly a really interesting woman who's come up with the idea of #workschoolhours. And her idea is that parents who are trying to juggle family and work and small children are just stretched beyond their means.
Yeah.
And that they would be much more productive and effective workers if they were able to be with their children after school and in the holidays. And I love that idea because I think that CEOs and people would find that their workers were so much more efficient and happy and productive.
And we know what that means for the children, obviously, as well, in that family unit.
So
I must admit, I work for a great company that are very, very lenient, but they also allow for me to look after my mother.
Yes, when there's another thing.
See, that's that other is
at the other end of the spectrum, and that's so important, and that time is so precious.
It is.
Yeah,
it really is. It really is. Just to finish my story as well is that so Simon's wife Natalie, about 6 months after the baby was born, she sat there and she said, so I said to Simon one day, "What the heck are you doing, staring at that child so much?" And he said,
Paula told me.
That all those neurons are going off if I make eye contact.
He's very biddable, isn't he?
She was like, I just wondered what the heck was going on. Oh dear. Okay. I think we've done that. But let's finish this segment before we get really into the advice on ageing well and healthy and feeling good about ourselves. So you've been married now 52 years?
Is it 52? I think it is.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, yes.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I was a child bride.
Yeah, go on. What's the secret to that one then, do you think?
Do you know, I asked Chris about this the other day because somebody had asked me, and he thinks it's tolerance. Because honestly, it's funny because I've had conversations about this recently, and people say, we have this unrealistic expectation of marriage or finding your true love and the perfect person. I think it's probably a social media thing. They've all got to be incredibly handsome, good looking, and incredibly wealthy and incredibly this and incredibly that. And actually that's not real, and just, follow your heart, I think, and grow together, find interests in common, be kind to each other. Kindness is a bit of a, dodgy word these days, but I still think kindness is a very important part of life.
I had a relative that had been married for, well over 60 years, and I said and when he passed, and I said, how did you make the marriage work? And she said, we never wanted to leave each other at the same time.
That is so true. So
and I
true.
kind of liked it. I thought the love was deep enough, but it was equally just saying it's not always perfect.
It is not.
There are some days that are a little more.
I could trade him in tomorrow, I sometimes think. But no, really. And also having a laugh. That's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a shared sense of humour Yeah, we laugh a lot.
All right, we're going to come back in a moment and we are going to talk about how to find health and happiness as we age. So, Judy, I want to talk about the book, and I love the title Evolving. Tell people why you've called it that.
I love it too. I stole it from Serena Williams, actually, because she didn't like the word retirement either, and people kept asking her when she was retiring from tennis, and she said, I prefer to think of it as evolving. And yes, that really resonates with me because I think it is an evolving that we're doing. We're going from one type of life into another type of life. And there are things to learn and new things to understand and new people to meet and friendships to be made along the way. I don't see it as retirement, which when you look it up in the dictionary is go to bed or withdraw.
Well, it sounds like the end, right?
It does.
And I found it when I was leaving politics and everyone was like, well, you're retiring. Well, no, I called it transitioning. I don't quite know what that looks like yet, but I plan on moving on to something else,
Yes, of course you do.
Yeah. But they do. They just kind of want to put you in that box. And so anyway, I loved Evolving. Now, I was thinking the research you have done, I mean, this is like a thesis and I mean in the best possible way.
Oh,
as far as
thank you.
So did you you must have gone down rabbit holes, and how do you read? I want to know about the research of it, to be honest, because I found it fascinating how much you'd read. And then, of course, it leads you to something else, which is how I meant it as a thesis. You know what I mean? That's what happens. Is you've got your topic and then you go, oh, my goodness, I didn't know about that. I want to know more. And
exactly.
Is that what happened?
Yes, absolutely. I've just loved the researching of it. And I've met so many interesting people. I think the person who started me off was Professor Nairi Kirse, who is a professor of aging well at Auckland University. And who knew we had a professor of aging well? It's the thing. There are lots of academics in New Zealand right now researching healthy aging. Yeah. It's a big focus of interest. So she started me off on this route of the research. And then I discovered the Harvard study, which is the world's longest longitudinal study of adult development, which started in the 30s.
Wow.
Way back in the 30s. John Kennedy was one of the guys who was on the original part of the study. And you might say, oh, well, that's all very well. They're all just rich white blokes. But the study also included a large proportion of people from inner city Boston, from the poorest areas of inner city Boston, and some very interesting women from another study that was going on at the same time. So it's a very broad study, and now they're looking at the children of these people they were originally studying. So they've found all sorts of interesting things that are pillars to aging well. And the most important, of course, is what we've talked about, is relationship. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a husband or a wife or a partner. It just has to be somebody who cares about you, has an emotional attachment to you, like a good friend. Yeah. And that's a concern, because there are a lot of really lonely people in the world, and a lot of people don't find it easy to make those connections. And so to those people, I would say, push yourself. Yeah. Push yourself out there. I'm shy. I don't go new places easily on my own. But I think when you make the effort, you surprise yourself. And so, join a sports club, like if you're interested in Pilates, for instance. Go to a Pilates class. Keep going. Go backwards and backwards every week, and don't miss. And eventually someone in that class will say, let's all go out for a coffee. And so you suddenly become part of a group,
social,
and you have a connection. So it's just starting small. Don't expect too much. Just be brave.
But and everyone else, because you also give the example at one stage of joining a choir or something like that. And of course, that could feel kind of terrifying, particularly if you don't think you can sing that well and that sort of thing. But most of the other people there are in the same boat.
Exactly.
They're there for the social connection.
They are totally there for the social connection. And, I'm not a big user of social media. In fact, I don't use it at all. But a friend of mine had moved north to a different place, and she didn't know a soul. And she put out a message on Facebook saying, I've just moved to blah, blah. Is anybody else up for a coffee? I don't know anyone. Soon she had 100 people, come out of the woodwork, all in the same boat.
Yeah.
There's a lot of single people out there who, for one reason or another, may be a bit lonely.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of taking that first step. So it's very important that. The other really important thing that came out of the Harvard study was that optimism is important. So be a cup half full person, which is a very Pollyanna-ish kind of view of the world. But actually, it's really, really protective.
Yeah.
So I say to people, well, if you're not an optimistic person, I'm not. I'm always pleasantly surprised if things turn out well. But I think you can fake it till you make it.
Yeah. And it's like I used to say to my kids, no one wants to hang out with a negative Nelly. So it is a bit of that, well as, you want someone that's interested and positive and, which it also means that you're going to have better social connections and you're someone that's kind of fun to be around, which is nice. And
be curious. Be curious about life.
Yeah, very interesting. Now, I did read in depth the chapter on sleep because I struggle.
Oh, so do I.
But I sort of struggle and I don't. And it was before I read it that it was quite, because I've been getting better at not caring, if you like, because I'm functioning perfectly fine. And it's been years now. It's not like it's been very recently. And you sort of talk about getting up at 2 and having a cup of tea if that's what you need to do. Whereas I was lying there the other morning from about 2:30 till about 4:30 in the morning, and I was lying there and I was going, what an absolute privilege it is to have this quiet time to reflect and actually think through a few things that have been on my mind lately.
That is such a great attitude.
No, I didn't really believe it, but I did because I kept saying it to myself.
To yourself, yeah.
I just kept saying it, and I went, gosh, it's quiet, it's dark, it's, what a privilege I've got to have this time completely to myself and my thoughts.
Yes, that's a wonderful way of looking at it. And there's great research out that says, don't try very hard not to be anxious about not sleeping because you will eventually sleep, Get your sleep hygiene right. We all know what we have to do, no blue screens and all of that stuff. But the light on your eyes first thing in the morning is
I didn't know this.
Important. Yeah, it's all about your body clock, the circadian rhythms of your body. So the melatonin is what you need for sleep at night, and then you wake up in the morning. The first thing you want to do is for that beautiful dawn light to hit the retina. And alert the brain to, yes, it's time to wake up. And go to bed at the same time at night and wake up in the same time in the morning, even at the weekends when you're, dying to sleep in.
Now, what do we do if we're worried about someone with, dementia and seeing the signs? And I suppose, and I come from that as someone who, my father had dementia, so I've lived through it with him. And I'm going to leap around slightly, but this is about 2 years ago, my husband said to me, he said, do you think I'm going a bit balmy? And I said to him, no, it's what your daughter and I tell you about every third day. I think you can't hear everything. And he went and got hearing aids, and it completely and utterly changed his life. And he won't mind me saying that because he admits to it. It changed his life socially. I used to think, he's just withdrawing.
It's a huge factor in dementia, hearing. 80% of people with dementia have hearing issues.
Yeah.
So I think there's a real resistance to hearing aids, and my husband, he won't mind me saying either, is pretty resistant to getting a hearing aid. He's constantly telling me I'm mumbling, So I'm really encouraging him to go and get tested.
Well, Alan will tell you it changed his life completely.
Yeah.
The day he got them and they were testing them and she said, let's step outside. And he stepped outside and he's a very stoic tradie, my man. Yeah. And he said he literally almost had to hold back a tear. And he said, I can hear the bird up in the tree. Yeah. I can hear a truck coming down the road. And he realised how much he'd been missing. And the other thing I would say is even about 2 or 3 days ago, we were sitting there and he ignored me. And I said, have you got your ears in? Like, yes. And he said, yes, I do. And I can't even see them.
Yes, that's right.
That is
They're
how good
so
they are.
Tiny these days. It's great. It's really great. But the thing is that if you are deaf, it's really socially isolating and it creeps up on you. You find yourself suddenly maybe not wanting to go to parties because you just can't hear the conversation, or you're nodding inanely at people and smiling in the wrong place when you're having conversations, So I think it's really, really important to get over that and to be
And where we are so lucky now, Judy, is that there are, we can get operations for cataracts. We can get hearing aids for those, those ailments of just a body that's been used quite a bit.
Yes,
for a few decades, right? Yes. I always say I'm so grateful to mine, like I've given it a lot for, my 55 years.
That's so right.
I want it to give me another, however many I'm blessed with. But, in that context, we do have the technology now to help our bodies better than we used to.
We do, and we should make the most of it. In fact, I've just had 2 cataracts done, so I've got brand new eyes. I can read without glasses. It's fantastic. But, I think one of the key things is to start thinking about your health and fitness in your 40s, if not before, because how you're living in your 40s and 50s has a real bearing on how well you age.
Yeah.
So, hitting the bottle every night, smoking, those things are so bad for you. Yeah. So bad for you. So bad for your brain, so bad for your heart. And what's good for the heart is good for the brain. That's what Sir Richard Fall says. And he's our kind of leading neuroscientist in the field of dementia. And so he says social connection, steer clear of the white devils, the old salt, sugar, flour, white flour, processed dairy.
Yeah. And do you believe in and you talk about it briefly in the book, but kind of age your way as well? I mean, I jokingly say I'm hoping to age disgracefully.
Yes. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Hence a mullet in my 50s and trying to sort of grab life a bit that way. And then, we do see younger ones having more cosmetic surgery earlier, but then I do also think that's because of technology and that it's improved so much sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's a fascinating woman who I've quoted in the book, Claire Chambers, who's a Cambridge professor, and she says that, this whole youth thing that we're obsessed with is a major public health issue.
Yeah.
She says
it would have to be, wouldn't it?
Yeah. She says that really, people have an unrealistic expectation of how they should look because of all the enhancement and I'm all for a bit of enhancement. Don't get me wrong. I've been down the Botox path and with varying degrees of success.
Well, because it was different back then as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a lot more, I want to say paralysing. Is that the right word?
Yes. I had an eyebrow that went rogue.
Oh, really? Yeah, that probably.
Which was not a good
look.
look.
You say just before you're about to go on TV.
Yeah. But But I put this pressure on myself, of course. Nobody else did, to look a certain way on the telly, and so now I'm embracing my wrinkles, but I'm still getting the odd shot of Botox.
Yeah.
For the frown lines and things.
Yeah.
And I think good on you. Do what makes you feel good, but think about it and don't do it because of other people.
Yeah.
Do what makes you feel good, and just
and we're all
happy.
different. That's what I say.
We're all different. Be happy in your skin.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I'm at a point where I haven't had Botox, and then I turn around and go, I had weight loss surgery, for goodness sakes. Now, a lot of that was health, but you could argue that was cosmetic. What I mean? I wanted to look different than what I did.
Yes.
It's a part of it.
That's fine.
That's my choice. Yeah,
it's
I'm
good.
proud of it.
I must say, you look amazing.
I'm just proud of it.
Yes.
That's what I mean. We all have these different choices in life.
But you looked amazing before as well, I might say.
Thank you. That's
I
really
might
nice
say
of
you
you
did.
to say.
Really?
Yeah, we do get a little bit caught in, all the rest of it and everything else. So that's really good. Well, look, I totally loved the book. I think people should read it. I'm going to give it to my daughter, who's like, she's about... God, is this terrible that I can't remember? So she's about 37. So there you go.
Perfect.
So that's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
Get her to read it before she's 40, or now's really the time for her to be looking after herself differently, right? So that she can,
absolutely is.
She can live a nice, long, healthy life.
You want to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Really. Well, I hope you enjoy those grandchildren and the family. And are we up to number 8 now?
8's arriving in August.
Ooh.
Yay!
That sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, well, you alluded to it earlier. So this is called Ask Me Anything. So this is your turn to ask me something, which you've done before.
I have done before. So about the Auckland Mayoralty, Paula.
I don't know.
Are you going for a run?
I don't know.
I think you'd be a wonderful mayor.
Thank you for that. That's really kind of you. No, the honest truth is I don't know. And I think part of that is not knowing where I'll be in my own head and my family by the end of the year.
Yes, of course.
So
it's time to run, isn't there?
It's not till October next year, and I feel like, definitively, while I do have a mother that needs me, while I do have a relationship that's important, while I've got, a lot of other things going on. And so I will probably decide this Christmas, to be honest.
Yeah. It's so important to have that time with your mum. Those are the things, because you don't get that back, And the mayoralty will wait for you, I'm sure.
And journalists kind of want you to do a yes or no, right?
Of course they do.
And of course I don't know is the truth.
Yes.
And then everyone goes, well, that means yes. And I go, well, no, it really means maybe.
It means maybe. It means that you have an interest.
It does.
But that you have a life as well that's very important to you. And you need to focus on that for a bit.
We will see what happens.
Great.
Judy, thank you for coming to chat to me today, and it's been great to catch up and see you again in a different setting, which is really good. Now, Judy's book, Evolving, Finding Health and Happiness as We Age, is in bookstores now, so go and get one. And that's it for another episode of Ask Me Anything. You're in touch with me by emailing askpaula@nzherald.co.nz. Guess what? I think I'm back on Facebook, Instagram after being hacked into, and I've got to admit, Judy, I was quite happy to be off for a few weeks.
It's very relaxing.
Yeah, it was. It was quite good. And I had a good excuse, right? I could just go, oh, it's not my fault. But make sure you follow Ask Me Anything on iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Paula Bennett. Ask Me Anything. Goodbye.